Okay, well, it is almost right at 11 o'clock here in Central Time. And just want to welcome everyone today to the session for Ally in Making Your Teeny Campus course accessible. This is our 20th year anniversary for teaching online and innovation. And this is also our first full virtual event for Teeny Campus. So we are very pleased today to have two presenters. We will start with Pari Bahat, Senior Instructional Designer at Teeny Campus, and her background is in computer science and management, and she has worked in the field of online learning and teaching for over 15 years. She's very interested in helping faculty create accessible and inclusive instructional content so that students of all abilities can perform as well as they can in their courses. And her co-presenter is Dr. Catherine Stone. Her bachelor and master's in physics from Sam Houston State University and her PhD in geological sciences from UT Knoxville. She's currently at Walter State Community College and has taught physics, math, and physical science and geology at higher ed since 2005 in East Tennessee. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Pari.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks everybody for being here on this Monday with us. I know there's other things going on, and it's still summertime, so this is very helpful. And for people who can't make it, we are recording it, so that's great too. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off so I don't get distracted, and I'm better able to concentrate on the slides itself. Go ahead. The first thing I wanted to say, this is a two-part presentation, and myself and Dr. Stone will sort of half and half it. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ally, and then he'll come in later to discuss what it is like on her end. But first, what is Ally? And I'm sure by this time, people have, course developers, faculty members have heard about it, have maybe started even using it. So this might be familiar to you guys, but just to recap, Ally is a tool which auto-checks course content within D2L against the WCAG 2.1 accessibility standards. And so these are the national standards that everybody is supposed to adhere to, especially in higher ed, so students can have accessible content, instructional content. Ally makes it really easy and sort of step-by-step instructions to guide course developers to improve accessibility of their course content. And Dr. Stone will sort of tell you about it a little bit later. It also provides students accessible alternative formats, so such as audio and electronic braille. So this is very useful for students who prefer one format over the other without the course developer actually creating those multiple formats. And finally, it also allows administrators to view institutional level accessibility. So this is the part we are not going to focus on today, but it's useful to know that you can see, hey, this is how my institution is doing overall in the whole department, in the whole institution-wise. So that is Ally, and Ally is our ally. So that's what the talk is about. Our main session objectives are, as I said before, I will introduce Ally in D2L Brightspace. And for some of you, it might just be a refresher. But basically, we'll focus on two main things: the course accessibility report for developers, and then alternative formats for content for students. And that's the alt formats are going to be sort of a smaller part of the presentation. Mainly, I'll focus on the course accessibility report. Dr. Stone will then share course developers' perspective and experience with the Ally tool and how she liked it and used it, etc. And finally, she'll share Ally's accessibility checklist, which comes some recommended things that Ally recommends for faculty members and course developers. So let's jump right into the course accessibility report. And this is intended for course developers. So especially for TNE campus, because of the master course model, if you are a course developer, you have access to the course accessibility report, and I'm going to show you how to get there, what to do with it, etc. So the first thing is, how do you get access to it? So when you are within your main D2L Brightspace course, this course might look familiar. It's the course developer program, which every course developer goes through. That's why I chose this. But basically, within your own course, for example, if you go on the top navigation bar, if you go all the way to more, and click on that drop down. Under course admin, you should have another link called Ally Course Report, and that's what you want to click on to try to get access to this course report. Once you click on that, your course report will pop up. But before I show you what that looks like, I kind of wanted to sort of go over the visual indicators that Ally uses. And this is important because I want us to be on the same page about what Ally is saying to us when it shows some of these indicators. So there are four main sort of dials, right? And the red one with the low indicator gauge, it's like your car gauge. So the red dial with the very low indicator gauge basically is saying that that item has a low score in Ally, 0 to 36%, and it needs help. Now, the red gauge, for some of us who might not be able to see colors very well, there's also the dial indicator, and so you can see how it's to the very low end of the whole dial. So in two ways, it's kind of helping us out to visualize what's going on there. There's an orange dial with sort of the indicator in the middle, and which is basically saying that our item, whatever it is within D2L, has a medium score, about 34 to 66%. So it's a little better, but we can make it much better. There's a light green dial, and the indicator is almost 200%, but not quite. It's at 90%. And Dr. Stone has a nice story about that. But that indicates that green dial, light green dial, indicates you have a high score for that particular item. It could be a Word document, a PowerPoint. So it's 67 to 99%. So you're almost there, but it is not 100%. And finally, there's a dark green dial with the indicator all the way to the right. In fact, try to bust out of there. And that's saying we have a perfect 100% score for that particular item within D2L. So those are your four main dials, indicating the score for each item within D2L. Under that, you have three symbols, and those symbols indicate what is going on in terms of the type of error within that particular item. And so we have a red circle with an exclamation point, which indicates that this error is severe. So students are going to have a lot of issues trying to access this item unless they can just see it. So this could be like a scanned PDF, and that's a severe error. The middle one is an orange triangle with an exclamation point, and this indicates that the severity of the issue is major. It's not severe, but it's major. So we still want to correct that. And finally, you have a yellow flag, which indicates that this issue is minor and it can be fixed super easily. So this is the kind of type of issue which will get you that almost there score, the 99% score, but not the 100% score. So minor issues are some things that we tackle at the very end sometimes because we want to make sure the severe and major issues are corrected first. But minor issues are also low-hanging fruit, so you can correct them super fast, super easy. So those are the main differences. So now, as we look into the Ally screens themselves, once we see the symbols, they'll work out better for us, and we'll know instantly what they kind of mean. And you can always come back to this reference slide to kind of check them out. So let's go inside a course. And once we click on the course accessibility report, then you'll see a screen which on the top part kind of shows you what is your overall accessibility score for the course, which is this green sort of semicircle. And right now it's showing me a 96% for the Course Developer Program course. And you'll see there are two tabs underneath, Overview tab and Content tab. So right now the Overview tab is what we're looking at. And as you can see in the middle, very visually, it presents, what I really like is it presents all course content. So it's actually telling us as a course developer, faculty member, that how many files are there in the course, how many modules, how many Word documents, how many presentations. So a lot of times we have no idea because we have been, sort of building our course over the semester, we have been bettering it, and we keep adding files to it. And sometimes we don't know like what that file count is. So it's a really nice snapshot of telling us how many files we have, what type of files we have, And right now, this particular 135 number shows the overall type of files, and those colors don't mean anything else other than it's a different type of file. So that's all of our course content. To the right of that, you see there's a couple of icons. It's showing us that we have about 109 files, which are at, almost 100% accessibility. So that's the high scoring content, which means that 109 files are already sort of almost there, but we can fix some minor things and it will make the course or those items 100% accessible. And underneath that, you have the orange triangle with the exclamation point saying 12 of those files, there are 12 major issues going on. And those major issues need to be fixed because those are going to be presented to students as an obstacle. And so there's two ways to tackle that. You can start fixing the high scoring content. There's a lot of those, but those are almost there anyway. So students are not going to have that much trouble accessing them. And we can start fixing the major issues, which are only 12, but those are major issues, so they may take you some time. But that's where usually we start fixing things because students won't be able to use them as you intended to otherwise, right? So this is your top part of your screen of your course accessibility report. The bottom part of the screen, so now you can see the course accessibility report in its full, glory. And we already sort of went over this top part, which I explained. So the bottom part is going to start basically giving you a detail of the remaining issues, including the severity of issues with those icons that we discussed, what the issue actually is. And then towards the right, you'll see that how many files are affected with that particular issue. So really easily, we can see that the second line, for example, it's a little hard to read, it may be, but I'll read it out for you. The second item basically says that this is a severe issue, and it says that the HTML content contains videos without captions. So it's alerting us to something that might be an issue, and it's saying there are four files that are affected. So there might be 4 pages where there might be videos without captions. So I picked that particular one because I really wanted to this is a caveat within Ally. If we do have YouTube videos which are perfectly captioned, Ally does not take that into consideration. So Ally is looking for native videos or videos in other platforms or within D2L. So when you do have a YouTube video and it is fully captioned as it is in this particular course, Ally won't be able to count that as it is not able to see that, okay, it does have captions and it does have fully 100% accessible captions. So with YouTube videos, Ally will still throw this error. So in your course, if you are using some YouTube videos, it's just a good reminder to go and double check. But, if this error keeps showing up and you only have YouTube videos which do have captions, then you shouldn't worry about that. And at some point, I think they will figure out a way to sort of distinguish between a native video and a YouTube video and be able to say, okay, this does have caption. So anyway, this is our full course accessibility report, like an overview of it. And then when it gives you a good idea of where you are, what you need to do. This dial up at the very top with the actual course accessibility score tells me that I am almost there. I'm really good, but there's only a few major issues that I need to look at. And now your score might look different. If it's 75%, it's 65%, it's 50%. Don't worry about it because it's always an improvement process. This course developer program itself did not start out like 100% accessible or even 96% accessible. It's a process. So, and we are here to help you fix that, right? We are here to help you with that. As Dr. Stone and I kind of teamed up and did things together. So don't worry if that dial doesn't look so pretty in the beginning. Once we leave the overview tab of the course accessibility part, and we actually click on the content tab, it gives us a more detailed overview of more details about basically which of our content has what score and what are the number of issues in that item. So, for example, and you can see how it's got multiple pages, right? Because if you remember, we had a total of 135 files, and also from um, back back in that screen, if you remember, we had 109 files, which had some or the other issue. Now, the neat thing about this screen also is that we can sort it by score. So it's not only showing us items with lower scores, it will also show us items with 100% score. So if you kind of toggle on that score link over there, it's going to go back and forth between 100%, between top down and bottoms up. So right now, our worst file is about 81%, is at 81% accessibility score, right? So that's pretty good, but we want to try to get as close to 100% as possible. So within this, let's look at the course syllabus document and what it's telling us. So if you click on that, there's multiple ways to get to that, but from here, you just click on that little dial, which says 84%, and you can see it's a light green dial with the indicator showing that it's almost at 100%. Once I click on the course syllabus document, then it'll show us this screen where on the left, it actually loads the Word file, or it could be a PowerPoint file, or it could be a PDF file, whatever it is in your course. And it's going to sort of highlight what it's talking about. And on the right, there's a lot of things going on. So on the right, it shows you the individual score for that particular document. And it has a button called All Issues, which you can click and it will show you all the issues. It also, right underneath the item score, it tells you the most important issue. And so the most important issue within this document is that the tables are missing some headers. There are a couple buttons underneath there. You can click on what this means to understand what the actual issue is. And then underneath that, there is a solution button, like I try to call it, on how to set table headers. So it's sort of offering a solution within this particular document, how you will do that. There's a couple of things I want to point out as well. Ally does not allow you to make those changes right here within the Ally tool. So I cannot just click on this document on the left and try to have the cursor in there and start making changes. No. What we would need to do is we need to download this file, or in our case, as course developers, you will already have a copy of this file, so you can open that up. But to ensure that you're working with the correct one, you can download the file using this download button at the very top. The minus and plus are to zoom into the document. So I just wanted to point that out. So if you you download that button, and then we work natively on our computer to fix the issue. And then we upload a version with table headers, which was the main issue. So therefore, you can just click on that button, the upload button, and drop the file to upload. And as soon as you do that, then you will get a revised score for this particular item. Another neat way is that it gives you in the middle of the document section, basically, it gives you like a scrollable list of issues. And so there's a couple of different ways that you can actually see those issues. If that's distracting, then you can hide that. And click on the All Issues button instead. So there's a lot going on in the screen, but I'll show you a recap of it later on. But once we upload a version with table headers, so I download the document, I did what they told me to do, and I uploaded another version just to kind of see, hey, did this help? Then immediately the dial goes up to 100%, and it will say, yes, perfect, you have successfully, achieved 100%. And basically what that means is now the file does not have more issues for us to fix. Students will have a more accessible version to download. There are some caveats to that. I think Dr. Stone will touch on that a little bit too, but Ally alternative formats for this particular document. So for example, this is a Word document, but any kind of alternative formats that a student prefers, maybe an audio file or a Braille version, then in the translation of that, in the moving from one format to another, then there will be no accessibility issues. And so this is great. We want this for every single file in our course as much as possible. And when you close out, you can probably go back to that particular screen and it'll show you 100%. So here's, as I said, that particular Ally item scoreboard was very busy. There was a lot of things going on. So here's a quick recap of everything that it stands for, what it means, where you find which information. And we just went over that, so I'm not going to go over that everything again. But basically, on the left is the scoreboard, which shows you all the issues and the scores and what that means and how to fix it and where we can upload and download the files. And versus all the way to the right is what our goal is and what you'll see when you actually fix all those things 100%. So that's where we want to go. The other thing that I mentioned is Ally offers. That was a really quick sort of overview of basically the course accessibility report. I did not show every single type of issue. I did not show every single type of format, but just to give you an idea of what we can do with that one particular format, which was the document format, and or PowerPoint, which would be pretty similar to Word doc, table headers, image, alternative descriptions, those kind of things. The alternative formats are another sort of feature of Ally, which is very useful. And it is kind of primarily intended for students, but I can see it helping faculty members as well. So for example, if you have a PDF and you upload it, and then you can download a tagged PDF or an auto tagged PDF, those kind of things. So alternative formats are just formats which are created automatically by Ally to give to the student in case they don't prefer one version over the other, or they are able to work better with the other version. So these are all the formats that are available to a student. So an OCR PDF is just an optical character recognized PDF, which means if it's a scanned PDF, it is allowed to basically run through an OCR functionality, and the text will basically be converted to text, and so screen readers can read that. Tagged PDFs are basically those where tags are included for, this is a header tag, this is a table tag, this is a paragraph tag, those kind of things. So it just allows for better screen reader or any kind of assistive technology to read those PDFs. Structure is better for the navigation. There could be an HTML file instead of a Word file for students who may not have Word, those kind of things. Also, it kind of adapts to device sizes. So if it's a tablet or a phone, etc. There would be an EPUB format for ebooks and those kind of things, and students are allowed to annotate and highlight. So that's useful for when they are trying to, remind themselves of certain things. There is an electronic braille version, which allows visually impaired students to read more quickly and work with their displays. There's an audio version. This is used a lot for people on the go who can't read on a small screen or something, but they just quickly put in headphones on and will listen to the text. And finally, there's the translated version as well, which is allowed. And this is on the back end. If we enable it, then an English file can be translated to a Korean or French, whatever the number of languages it gets translated to. We have this option turned off right now because TN eCampus does have language courses. So we don't have this on like Spanish and French, but this is something that is also available to students, which can be very helpful for students who are not native English speakers, basically. People like me, I'm from India. Although I do speak English, but sometimes it's easier to think in my native language. So in order to access alternative formats, we have when we go into a course, for example, this is a TN eCampus student orientation course. Whenever we go in there, and course developers also should be able to see that, just right by the item, whatever it is, you will see a little icon, which is like a little A and a download arrow. And that is your Ally alternative format download button. And so clicking on that button will sort of brings up all the formats, different formats that are available for that particular item that we clicked on. In this case, there's an EPUB version, an electronic braille version, an audio version, and a Beeline reader version. And so clicking on any of these will download that particular format for the student, and then they can just start engaging in that particular format. So those are the two main advantages from the course developer as well as the student styles. Just a quick overview of the Ally tool and its capabilities and what it can do for us. Now we'll have Dr. Stone do the course developer version of this whole presentation.
All right, thank you. Hopefully everybody hear me okay. As Perry has pointed out, that this course, our Ally, really does have a lot of tools and a lot of help. And so when the tool was first initiated as a course developer, I thought, well, okay, I want to give it a try. Because I do really, whenever I built on my pages, I was very much concerned about accessibility. And so I went through with Tennessee eCampus, the built-in accessibility checker, which you can see in this view here. The arrow, of course, points that, if you click on this, it should show, okay, no accessibility issues have been detected. So I was pretty good about my course anyway. So whenever I did do the little course report, I was kind of surprised that it did not give me 100%. I guess I'm a little bit anal that I wanted 100%. Instead, I got this not so perfect score. I was kind of confused because, by looking at the D2L accessibility checker, it said there was no issues. But Ally was able to actually see that there were some issues, especially whenever you have screen readers that go through. And so, as Perry pointed out, I clicked on the little icon, gives me more details, and I was actually at 80%. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I, of course, clicked on all the issues, and so all the issues are listed. Majority, in fact, almost all my pages had the issues that had tables, had this one to pop up about the tables not containing, having headers, while I know I had done so. Other issues that almost all of my pages have was that there was not a language set, or that the HTML file did not have a title. And then, of course, the other thing that seemed to pop up a lot was where I hadn't done lists. And again, this was little issues that were not noted in the D2L's checkability accessibility. So I had to go through and start correcting things. So to do this, I kind of went through and learned a little bit of HTML coding to fix some of the things because the pages were already developed. And then had a lot of help from Perry and the Ally support team to actually say what was going on, why things were not working the way we thought they were supposed to. And so when I finally got it done, here's my page that I had before, and you can see now I have, 100%, everything's good. And you probably visually don't see the changes as much as a person with a screen reader device or the other assisted technology device would have picked up on. But overall, it's now improved for everybody. So what did I have to do? Well, like I said, I had to learn a little bit of HTML code just to make sure that I was okay with doing this. And so the two codes that I really want to look at was the language as well as the module title. These are the two things that I had to go through on every single one of my pages. This has been already been completed, fixed by Perry and the technicians. So if you're creating a new page, by default, these things have been taken care of. But because of my courses were built for a while back, those little codes were not in there. So if you're, like I said, if you're creating a new page, you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to go back and clean up your older pages, then these are the two codes that you'll need to do. So for the HTML file, does not have a language set. It's very easy and simple. You just add in the language equals and then quote. You can just leave it as EN, which is what I started to do. But then there is a difference between English for different countries. So by default, Tennessee eCampus has EN-US to say that we're US English. And then, of course, the title, now by default, it just says module content. If you want to, you can go back and put the title to reflect what the page really is. However, again, that's just having to go into the HTML code to do that. So for those who wanted to know how to do HTML code or how to actually adjust that, it is this little symbol here at the bottom of your course page. You just simply click on that, and you can see whenever I went in to edit, some other little odd things kind of popped up. But when you click on the HTML code, you go into it, it'll pop up this window, and here you can see the HTML does not show anything about the English, and there's nothing about the title. So all I had to do, type in a little bit, and I now have the title taken care of as well as the language. And I believe I had about over 200, almost 250 pages that I had to go through and correct that on everything. But once I saved that from that window, let me go back to make sure I show you that. So of course I had to save from there, and then saved from the edit my code. Eventually the ally report was showing 100%. So I want to right now kind of go over to my course, kind of show you what it looks like. So this is my master's course, and like she said, you go under more. There's my Cali ally course report, and so yeah, I have 237 pages or files that are in there. My overview right here is completely doesn't show anything because of the fact that I have 100%. So really there's no issues that I can deal with or I can fix. But you can see that there are 19 pages that may be affected. And these were the ones that have HTML content contains videos without captions. And so I can click on the 19 and I can still see that all 19 of those pages are still 100%, but they all have the possible issue of containing videos. I can click on the individual pages, and of course I still see that I have 100%. So it's only comes down to those videos. And so I have 19 pages that I went through and checked, and if a person, and almost all of them were YouTube videos. I think 2 of them were other sites that were not necessarily YouTube, but they had the ability to turn off closed caption or not. And so it really is if that ability has been already clicked or not. So a user who's going to be using a screen reader or something, those tools are already going to be turned on, so that will not be an issue for them. So, but yeah, I was excited to see that now I have a good 100% page. Can't really go wrong with that. So I think that's pretty much it on that. And let's see. So yeah, that goes on to the accessibility checklist, just to make sure.
So,
yes, go ahead.
Dr. Stone, I was kind of interested to hear how much time did you spend? I know you did tell us the number, and there were some easy changes, but they were tedious. But like overall, if you wanted to put a ballpark on the time, how much time did it get you to 100%?
I would say that whenever I went through and had to completely fix all the 237 pages, and it was all because of the title. Let's see, I'm gonna go back to the presentation, and I'm gonna go back to the actual slide. This part right here, going through and changing the HTML language equals, giving it a language setting and a title. What I ended up doing was just did a copy and paste of this. So I copied this code and then we had to go into each page and paste it into the HTML. So whenever I sat down and really just focused on doing on that, it probably did take, I'll say a good 8 hours, only because I wasn't really sure if it was doing it, and so I was really hesitant at first. So I kept going back and forth and seeing. So the first few hours it was really delayed, but then once I really got into the habit, like, okay, I know it's doing it, I know it's catching it, it really sped up. So the majority of the full 8 hours of completely fixing the entire course to be 100%. A good portion of it was just a cut and paste of doing the US English and the title pages. The other issues that I had were the titles with the headers. And I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because I did not create a slide, but I wanted to show how I fixed that. So I want to go into some content, and let's go hopefully to a page. I should have gotten pretty more ready for this. Let's see, this is probably, well, this one had list. This was another little issue that kept popping up, was having the list correctly. And it was only whenever I had a subset. So this is just a single layer of a list. If I did a second subset list, it would show a flag. And I just had to go through and move where it closed the listing because of how HTML for the D2L was setting it up versus way the Ally wants to read it. It was just having an extra close set. So those are all single layer listing as well.
You know, while you're looking for that though, does anyone know, even though Ally is flagging that as a problem, does that really create a problem since it is actually a list? I mean,
it dealt with a subset list, and it might have.
Okay. So
I think
users could be impacted by that.
Yes, users could be impacted. So here's one of the videos, and see, it's a YouTube, so, and it does have closed caption. And there's the other ones.
Yeah, I just didn't know if Ally was being overly zealous about it.
I think it had more to do with when you try to do the other alternative methods, because the subsets, it wouldn't identify that there was a second subset.
Gotcha.
It was for the listing. It was a double layering that had the issues. And here we go. Here's a table, and we do have a second subset. So for the 5 down to these bullets here, or these down here, that's where I'd had the issues. And to start off with the table, when you're creating your course, or you're creating the page, and in HTML or the D2L, when you want to say that this is a header row, you actually have to use the table format. Excuse me. You use the cell properties, and this is where I found that I had gone through and I had chosen row header. And what it's supposed to have been was column header, or even if I highlighted it, I don't know if either one of these would work, but it needed to be column header. So once I went through and put column header for each one individually, even though, again, the accessibility check for the here in D2L never showed any issues, it was an Ally that had the issues. So that's where I, when I finally realized what that, it took me some time to figure out why things were doing it, and versus having to rebuild it and trying to keep recreating it. I finally realized I had to go through and just click on each one and make the cell. So to go through that again, click on the cell, and then do the cell properties, scroll down and make sure it was a column header, and then things were okay. So, and then for the subset here, this one I couldn't ever figure out until I went to the HTML code. And so I'm going to go into here. And unless you see an HTML code, it's going to be very hard to understand. But this right here means an unordered list. And so you're listing your items. So unordered is just the little round bullets or squares of some sort. But when you have a double listing, let's see, we are on this one right here. This is cleavage and fracture, so the one right above it should have it. Okay, so this is all this text. You can see the hardness. This is where it actually started, right here where it says hardness down here at the bottom. So it is a list that is in order. So it's a list item. So it is in order. So that's where the hardness, I have that information. And right here, D2L will put in a closed list item right here after this part. And that's where Ally was flagging it, saying that they were listed improperly. So I had to go through and just pretty much delete the little coding right here, which is not seen on the, as a visual when you read it. I had to delete that, and then once it was done, I had to add it down here after the unordered list, and that's all I had to do. And so once I realized where they were and go through the code and fix that, it was okay. I have not tried to create a new page to see if that issue still is. That's just the only way I went back through and corrected all of my former pages to get them to work the way they are now. So yeah, those were the 4 things that I had to worry about. Mostly the title, the English, and once the title and the language were set, everything else was took a little bit longer to go through the code to find out where it was for the listing, and then of course realizing what way to identify the column header, the cell, because before I was indicating that this was a the row was a header row, and it still was not picking up on that. So, so anyway, so that pretty much went through the whole instruction. Like I said, got everything down to 100%. And let me get over here, back to the presentation. So that wrapped it up. And so when I go through and do this, I usually try to let the whole system just by normal default. It already has the 12 point for the font, so I wouldn't really mess up with, I wouldn't really alter that. I found that I had copied and pasted some things from Word documents and so forth to make these pages, and so there was a few things with it changing the font size or changing the font style, and those end up being something that if I just delete it and let the system create, D2L had already had a clean system or clean font style that did not conflict. Make sure on the colors, earlier Perry pointed out the red gauges. I found out this last week. I was in a conference all week long, and one day we talked about accessibility online and found out that some people literally cannot see a certain color. And the presenter said, yeah, in fact, she found out that her son could not see the color red at all. So this word right here, what says say no to scan PDFs, would not see the word no because it could not see the word, could not see the red. And so that was something very new to me to learn about. So they would just see say, and there'd be a blank space there for them. So using color as a highlight is probably not the best thing to do when you're looking at accessibility for things. And then of course, the images, make sure that as you start loading them into it, make sure that you do the alt text. Go ahead and take the time at that point because it's easier to do that in the beginning as you load up the pictures than it is to go back and try to find ones that don't have it. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much all the information I can go over. If anybody has any questions about how to do something or how to fix something, I'm more than willing to help out on that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stone. I was also going to say the same thing, is that the eCampus team is also very much available to help all course developers out with improving the Ally or accessibility scores of their courses as well. So, oh, and there's Ally itself has help pages for LMS, which is Learning Management System support, in all different categories: student help, instructor help, even administrator help for how to use Ally. So those are very good resources. It takes you step by step. And Dr. Stone has done a lot of work on her own. She's an advanced HTML type of user for D2L, but even if you're not that advanced, you can work with us and our team to try to figure out what needs to be done, how to do it, learn from us, and then do it. So it's please don't be intimidated if you are new to Ally or new to HTML or new to trying to improve your course in accessibility. I definitely wanted to say that.
Right. I also just wanted to thank you, Dr. Stone. I mean, you really went the extra mile to us. They figure those things out, and like as Perry was saying, those may seem like complicated steps to someone that's not used to tweaking around with the HTML code, but as you obviously experienced, once you understood what it was not that difficult to repeat those steps until you got it. Right. So it is doable, and if somebody wanted help with that, we could certainly get them started. But it's just a matter of some time to spend on that, and then those things come together pretty easily once you got a little practice under your belt.
And another thing that I did to get myself 100% on my master course is that I deleted all of the files that were put in place for developers toolbox. Otherwise, I will still be at 90% because in the developers toolbox, there are several pages that are showing, don't do this, talking about accessibility, that all of them were flagged. And I was like, okay, I want that 100%. So I started deleting those pages.
That's ironic and very funny, but I can totally see how we are trying to give an example of what not to do, and then Ally catching that as an error and saying, don't do that. And we're like, we are saying the same thing, but it kind of lowers your score. So the developer's toolbox is usually very useful when you are developing for the first time anyway. So, once you're a seasoned developer, it's okay to kind of get rid of those files if you need to in your master course.
Right. And Ally won't catch everything, but man, it is such a head start on getting these things and finding things we didn't even realize might have been there. The D2L checker is very good, but clearly it doesn't catch everything either. And Ally did find some things, so it really helps us kind of double check ourselves and the existing system. So I'm really pleased that we have this. We've been looking forward to having it for some time. When we first saw it, it was like, oh, we need this. This would be so great, and it is. It's a very nice resource.
And what I really liked is the fact that it also looked at not just the HTML files, like most of my pages were HTML files. However, there was several that were loaded PDFs or loaded Word documents, and it scans those as well. And that's another thing that we don't all necessarily have that. When we start loading that material up, we haven't checked that. So,
well, thank you both so much for working on this and putting such a detailed package together, and we appreciate all of our folks that checked the session out, and it will be recorded, so we will be able to look at this again or tell a buddy and bring a friend to check this out later as well. So look forward to all of that, and thank you all.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Dr. Stone.
Thank you.